Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Mets Prospective presented by Verizon. Jacob Resnick and Joe DeMayo back with you once again. And Joe, we're heading towards the home stretch of the minor league season ending in a couple of weeks, and a lot of interesting developments in the system, including some players that can push towards the major leagues in 2022. So let's get right into our Stock Watch segment. Joe, why don't you kick us off?
I'm going to go with right-handed pitcher Cole Gordon. And if there's a definition of stock up, it's Cole Gordon. In the month of August, in 3 starts, 19 innings pitched, 0 earned runs allowed, 24 strikeouts. He was a 32nd round pick in the 2019 draft out of Mississippi State, which, interesting story behind him is he walked on to Mississippi State as a position player and then converted into a pitcher, was a full-time reliever for his entire stay down at Mississippi State. The Mets draft him, pitch him in low A right out of college. And now this year they're trying him as a starting pitcher and struggled a bit early on, but he's really picked it up of late. Not the biggest stuff in the world. He'll touch 94. He's got a really, really nice slider though. And he has a projection of maybe a number 5 type starter or one of those multi-inning relievers that we so often talk about. But for a 32nd round pick, there's no question that Cole Gordon's doing some of the best work in the Mets minors on the mound.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch Gordon on this run, and really the entire Binghamton team has been clicking. They're 13-6 in August as we tape, and it'll be interesting to see kind of where he pushes up next year if he starts in AAA and knocks on the door of the majors. He'll be 26 next year with only 1 full season under his belt. So certainly I got to keep an eye on kind of on that starting pitching depth chart as we move forward into next season. We're going to keep with the Binghamton theme and go on the offensive side of the ball. It's been really impressive to watch Carlos Rincon with the Rumble Ponies over the past month. And Rincon joined the organization on July 21st in a trade from the Los Angeles Dodgers in exchange for Billy McKinney. And the Mets have really gotten some great value so far. In 26 games since being assigned to Binghamton, Rincon has belted 7 home runs, which is tied with Francisco Alvarez for the most in the Mets system in that span. And we knew about Rincon's power before the trade, but the knock on him when he came over was his big swing and miss tendency. He's actually slashed his whiff rate by 5 percentage points since joining the Rumble Pony, so a good sign there. Now, he'll be 24 in October, and I think if he keeps putting the barrel on the ball as he has, you're looking at someone with solid bench bat upside.
Just a fun fact, back in the Single-A Midwest League, he actually beat current Toronto Blue Jays star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the home run derby in that league.
Now, one player we both have in our top 10 that we haven't really talked about that much this season is 23-year-old outfielder Khalil Lee. Lee has spent the majority of the season in AAA after a brief cup of coffee in the major leagues earlier this season. And he came over to the organization in the 3-team off-season deal involving the Royals and Red Sox, which sent Andrew Benintendi to Kansas City. Joe, why don't you give us a little update on Khalil's progression so far this season and kind of where he stands on the organizational depth chart?
Khalil Lee is probably next up in the depth chart when you're thinking about upper-level outfield prospects. He's the next guy in line if there is a need that arises at the major league level. When he came over from the Royals, he was comfortably ranked inside of their top 10, and now he is inside of the Mets' top 10 prospects. His skill set, it's based around really good defense, really good athleticism, a plus arm, and above average raw power that he still needs to tap more into in game action, but the power's there. He's still striking out a bit too much. He needs to make more consistent contact. And if he's able to accomplish that, Khalil Lee could certainly be an everyday outfielder at the major league level. At worst, if the contact doesn't quite get there, I think a 4th outfielder role would be perfectly suitable for him going forward.
Yeah, I think what you like about him as a prospect is that he's shown flashes of all 5 tools throughout his minor league career. Still kind of waiting for everything to come together and click at the same time, but he had 17 home runs as a 19-year-old back in 2017. He stole 53 bases in Double-A in 2019. Now this year, a 19% walk rate, that's second in all of AAA across all organizations. His weighted runs created plus is up there in the organization with Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos. So he's been hitting, and he's been hitting well this year. When he's being patient, putting the barrel on the ball, he's been doing a lot of damage. Now, the only question is, will the bat translate to the major league level? Obviously, it didn't in his brief cup of coffee earlier this year. I don't really think, though, that was indicative of what he will be a couple years down the line. This week's guest is Syracuse Mets outfielder Khalil Lee.
May 12th, you get the call up to the major leagues for the first time. You came back a couple days later. That team was in the middle of that weird period where the starters were getting injured, the backups were getting injured, the backups to the backups were getting injured. Just summarize kind of what that experience was like for you. Were you expecting to get the call at that point? And just kind of what you took away from that?
Pretty early in the season, I think I only had like one full series under my belt in AAA. It was exciting to come up there in that atmosphere where every game mattered. You know, anything you could do to help the team win mattered. So it was really cool being in that clubhouse and being able to contribute a little bit and actually be in the celebrations after the game of winning. That atmosphere was really special.
Was there a conversation you had either with a coach or a veteran guy on the team when you were up in the majors that you had that has kind of stuck with you as you come back to Syracuse and you've been there for the rest of the season so far, that you've kind of taken with you? Any advice that you've taken with you?
Yeah, man. Actually, I talked to Conforto a lot when I was up there as well. And, you know, there's going to be adjustments I had to make coming up from AAA to the major leagues. And I had to figure out a way to make those changes and make them quickly and still be able to help the team win. I definitely took the conversations I had with Mike, took them to heart. You know, it's helped me down here in AAA. I've been able to perform and not get caught in that down here in AAA. I'll never get back up. I'm still working hard to get back up to the major leagues.
How do you feel your game has grown since going back to AAA, where you've had some success since you returned?
Just knowing myself as a hitter, you know, my strengths and using them. I've been able to, you know, get back in a good rhythm with my routine and everything, and getting good pitches to hit, and I'm making good swings on them. So definitely letting my natural instincts take over down here in AAA, and letting the work and the preparation that I've done every day before the games, let it take over. And it becomes muscle memory at some point. So I've been getting really good at repeating the things that I need to do to make my swing consistent. And I think I'm doing a good job of that.
You're a left-handed hitting outfielder wearing number 24 with the Twitter handle Lil Swing Man. Is it fair to say Ken Griffey Jr. was one of your idols growing up?
For sure. Ken Griffey is definitely a guy that I watch a lot of video on. You know, didn't get to see him play in person ever, but I love the swing. You gotta love the swing, right? So definitely studied the swing. Him and Barry Bonds, two guys that I've really studied just their swing, and I really look to find little things that I can emulate in mine. I love the game, so when I play, when I'm out there on the field, I have fun. So as long as I'm doing that and I'm still loving the game, I'll be all right.
That was some really great stuff from Khalil. You can tell he's a guy that just enjoys coming to the ballpark every day and putting in the work. And he's in an interesting spot, you know, having a roster spot on the 40-man roster, being a call away from the majors in AAA, but not quite at the point yet where he's being looked at as a guy who can contribute now. I think the Mets would rather have him play every day in Syracuse than sit on the bench and maybe get a couple at-bats a week in the majors. But Joe, heading into next year, there's a chance Michael Conforto is gone. Kevin Pillar has a contract option. Seems like there's a spot for at least a part-time outfielder in 2022. You think they give Khalil Lee a chance to win a job out of spring training next year?
I absolutely think they could give him a shot to win a job. Does that mean he's going to be the everyday right fielder in 2022? I don't know if they'd necessarily do that, but to your point, I think having Khalil Lee battle for a job in spring training to be that fourth outfielder that we spoke of, I think that's a perfectly good role for him. They could have some explosion on the base paths, off the bench, some power, and then, of course, he has the ability to play all three outfield spots defensively. So if an injury were to occur or underperformance, you can throw Khalil Lee in the lineup. And I have a feeling the next time we see Khalil Lee in the major leagues, he's going to look a lot different than he did in his first cup of coffee.
That's going to do it for us this week. We'll see you next time on Mets Prospective, presented by Verizon.
See the Mets of tomorrow play today. The Brooklyn Cyclones play baseball on the beach all summer long. Visit brooklyncyclones.com/tickets.